Well, I guess the moral of that story is not to decline a draw and go for a dirty flag, because it could backfire very, very, very quickly. Welcome to another game with the white pieces. I've played e4, my opponent has played c5. The Sicilian defense. We will go for d4, hoping that my opponent first captures on d4 and then captures on c3. Delightful. There are ways to decline the Smith-Morra gambit by not capturing on c3. My opponent could have played d3, but that's not so good because we can just capture back with the bishop and then push c4, and we get a Maroczy bind on this d5 square. There's also e5, after which I would have played knight f3 and knight f6, which after e5 and knight d5 turns into a bit of an Alpine Sicilian. But here, my opponent has done the romantic thing and accepted the gambit, so we will be developing nice and easily with bishop to c4 and knight to f3. Okay, bishop c5. That strikes me as very unusual. That strikes me as very unusual. I'm going to go ahead and castle. Bishop c5. Bishop e4 is an idea, but bishop c5. Can't I just pin your knight to your queen and then kick your knight? Well, we might see h6 here, but then bishop h4, and are we really going to see g5? Wow. I mean, okay. This is very aggressive play from my opponent. Trying perhaps to out-aggro the aggressor, but... If I play here and my opponent captures here and I take here, then my opponent has d6. I'm thinking of this, getting rid of this bishop. If I can remove this bishop, I have never had a position like this in the Smith-Morra before. This is very unusual. My opponent's king is still wedged in the center. And if I can play here attacking my opponent's bishop and they drop that bishop back to b6, why then bishop d6 looks very nice indeed. Very nice indeed. And then fine, if my opponent wants to play bishop c7, we could trade on c7. And after their queen comes to c7, I'm playing knight to b5, and even if their queen drops back to b8, I'm then playing knight d6 check, and their king is forced to move, well, forced to move this way, because if they were to move this way, they'd be hanging this rather disgusting fork. Let's see if we can make something along those lines occur after knight b3. Of course, the way to prevent all of that would be to play a6. Let's hope my opponent now plays bishop b6. Then I'm playing bishop d6 and e5. That could be really funny. That could be really funny. Maybe my opponent's just going to come here and, you know, say I'll take your bishop for this one, but then I open up my rook on my opponent's knight, and I'm castled at least. My opponent is not. Yes. Okay. I think bishop d6 is a worthy move. But am I in any rush to play it? Rook e1 looks nice, because if I provoke this, then bishop d6, then we're looking at these knight sack ideas as well. But that maybe gives them time to play a6. I don't know. Bishop d6, bishop c7. I think if I play here, they would play bishop c7. And then, after takes, I don't even need to capture. Knight b5. They play play bishop c7, I just play here immediately. Looks pretty good. My worry is if I play rook e1, then they could play a6. But then I'm hopping into here immediately, and after takes, I'm hitting their knight, and I'm winning material back. Rook e1, because I think h4 would be to their detriment. Okay, so now we play... Oof. Bishop d6. Bishop c7. Knight b5. I think this could get very ugly very quickly for my opponent. I'm looking at knight d5 ideas as well, because after takes, this could get very, very, very ugly. Okay, so... Again, am I in any rush to take the piece? I just play here. No, that doesn't work. So I either need to play knight to b5 or d5 now. If I play knight d5, my opponent captures like this, I capture like this, then they capture like this. First. But then I capture like this. I'm going to attack like this. No, I think my original plan works nicely. We're going to take the piece, play knight b5 with a tempo on my opponent's queen. I have rook c1. I have sacking ideas here. I have a check here. And once I get that check in, my opponent's king is never castling, and I'm playing e5, locking everything off. Very, very nicely indeed. I don't understand what my opponent wants. e5 looks very good. e5 looks very good because it blocks the queen's vision of the c8 square. However, then my opponent could just castle, but they don't have time to castle, because if they castle, I'm winning the knight. So I play here and they capture like this. Then I play here and I win the rook. I could even go down and exchange and then pick up the piece, but then, okay, but what if I check here? If I check here, my opponent's king is moving this way. I think the move is e5. It blocks the queen's view of c7. Anything that captures is going to continue to block that. And if my opponent tries to castle, I'm winning the knight. The queen can't capture, obviously. They just lose the queen. And as I say, if the knight captures, then we win this. Ah! But this. Wow. My opponent does not care. They just want this square. Really? Well, of course it comes with... If I take here, they're taking back. And then they're checking here, tucking me in and mating me there. Interesting. So I have to push like this, and I think if my opponent takes, I just move over, and everything is fine. This is still hanging. This is still a threat in the air. That's GG, and there was just too much. You know, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at everything, but there's this. There's this. Let's have a quick look at the analysis there, because that was a very, very dense game, and I think I maybe went wrong at some point. Yeah. So it was quite urgent, this move. I played rook e1, but actually the rook does a good job of looking after the f2 pawn. So rook e1 is a mistake, but e5 was the right idea there. This bishop c5 move, okay, good to know in future. I'm meeting this with bishop f4, castles or e5. Castles was fine. Why wait to push e5 here? When there's a knight on f6, just push e5 immediately. I suppose I was thinking about this, but now bishop f4, and we're fine, and this knight just looks silly, and we kick it, right? We kick it, and this is 2 pieces for a rook and a pawn, which typically is quite nice. A rook and 2 pawns, I suppose, since we've already given one away. Well, I hope you enjoyed the game. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you play against the Sicilian. If you're a Sicilian player, what kind of Sicilian setup do you normally go for? Let me know. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.